You begin to discover that a lot of these sites that I take you to in Egypt are super ancient. I'm talking about far older than you can even imagine. We're talking about tens of thousands, in some cases, tens of thousands of years old. And you begin to discover that by the time the first dynasty begins, they inherited what was already there. They built nothing. These people in the first dynasty and second dynasty built nothing. And whatever they did build fell apart, mud brick stuff. It's a joke. They inherited these megaliths. They were there already when they arrived. Just like the Mayans built nothing. And the Mexican archaeologists will tell you this, that the Mayans built nothing, because they know. The Mayans inherited what was already there. They have records that the Mayans arrived in Teotihuacan, in Chichen Itza, and Coba and all these other places. And the stuff was there already. They just moved in. And then they started doing what? Sacrifices. They would throw virgins into wells because they thought it would make it rain, and they would play on the ball court and rip your heart out if you won.
Could you use up to $800? Find it at BioLife. Up to $800 is waiting for you.
Wells because they thought it would make it rain, and they would play on the ball court and rip your heart out if you won. Same thing going on over here in Egypt. Foolishness. Dogma and foolishness. Why? Because these weren't the people that built the structures. These weren't the people with the high knowledge at that time period. In some weird way, the knowledge was lost for a while. You had Namur and Korhaha, Jur and Jet and Mereneth and Den and Anajib and Semikaket, Ka, Sinferka. These are some of the kings that they're presuming ruled. And let's look at their kingship time that they may have ruled during this era. 54 years, 10 years. This one they don't know. 42 years, 10 years, 8.5 years, 34 years. You see the difference? We don't really pick up an accurate account until we get to the kings list that I showed you that I was standing in front of at Abydos. And we pick up around the third dynasty. So we're going into the third dynasty. So you can see the old kingdom picks up around 2649 to 2150 BC. Okay, that's BC. If you don't know, that means before Christ. Now they're starting to use BCE, which means before current era. So if you want to go before Christ, add another 2000 onto this number to get a real time period. Okay, so you're talking about 4,649 years ago, roughly. All right. And you can see we got the names of some of these kings from the Old Kingdom in the third dynasty. Zenaket, Zojer, Simachet, Kaba, Huni, Snefru, Khufu, Jezbere, Khafre, Nebka II, going into the fourth dynasty now, Menacure. And even these, these people here in the fourth dynasty, in my opinion, they inherited some of the pyramids that were already here and put their name on them. So they put their name on some of the pyramids. That's my personal opinion. After looking and being inside of them, like in the third dynasty, the Djoser, okay? That's the Bent Pyramid. That pyramid is a gigantic diagnostics tool, and it's so sophisticated. I've climbed on the inside of that pyramid from the bottom all the way to the top on the inside and took people with me. So you can see fourth dynasty, fifth dynasty, sixth dynasty. Then you get to the first intermediate period, okay? You got dynasty 8 through 10. Then the first half of dynasty 11. Then you get to the middle kingdom. And then it goes second half of dynasty 11. You can see all these kings here ruling. Dynasty 12, 13, 14 through 16, 17. Then you get to the New Kingdom era. And now you're getting into the time of Amenhotep III, who ruled around 1390 BC to 1352 BC. That's King Tut's grandfather. So he's all the way, King Tut is all the way up into the 18th dynasty. Well, his bloodline kind of becomes recognizable, I should say, around then, because some famous things happen with Amenhotep III and Queen Tiye, and then leading into eventually, obviously, what happened with him and his demise. But all these kings here, what you can see on the right-hand side, their ruling periods. They're not that long. Very short periods in kingship, extremely short. Now we're down into the 26th dynasty, 27th. You see what it says right here? Persian. The 27th dynasty is Persian. The 26th dynasty is Saite. The 25th dynasty is Nubian. So in the 25th dynasty, the Black Kings returned. Okay? They returned in the 25th dynasty. Look at this, the Macedonian period. Alexander the Great, you know about that. And then you even have the Ptolemaic period. When I tell you that there's time periods where civilization in Egypt itself has risen and fallen between cultures and races. It's a fact. It's an absolute fact, all right? An absolute fact. So, yes, there were Black kings and queens, but there were also Persian kings and queens. There were Greek kings and queens. There were Nubian kings and queens. There were, I mean, you can just, the mix goes on and on and on. Various kings and queens over different periods of time.
Coach here to tell you about an all-star bundle. It's Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN. And right now you can just, the mix goes on and on and on. Various kings and queens over different periods of time, meaning different races of people over periods of time. You can see them inside of these museums. The bodies are there. But the point I'm trying to make is they understood initially, before the Great Flood, the Sumerian kings, they understood the secret of longevity of life. They understood the secret of immortality through a couple of means. Like I said before, the elixir of life, which included monoatomic gold and colloidal silver, along with a few other herbs that they would add in there. They also understood how to transfer their consciousness from body to body through these many halls of Amenti that existed around the entire planet. If you come to Egypt with me, I will take you to one of the halls of Amenti. I will take you to one. I will let you touch an actual rejuvenation chamber. You will see them. You will feel them. You will see solid diorite warped by an energy beam. You can't warp diorite without breaking it. It doesn't warp. But you'll see solid diorite warped. You'll see a gigantic rejuvenation chamber that's been warped by some type of an exotic energy field. And you can touch it. You'll see things that you never thought would exist on this planet. That's what I do when I take people to Egypt. It's a trip of a lifetime. This is one of the Epic of Gilgamesh tablets. You can see that it's written in cuneiform text, where you take a wooden stylus and you actually make wedge shapes into the actual wet clay. And then, of course, it hardens and it becomes
as hard as stone. You see how smart they were? They knew that this information would stand the test of time because if they wrote this on paper, it'd be gone now. Why do you think the Bible is made up of mostly copied text from ancient tablets, not from ancient papers? They knew that we would be here at this current time, in this era, heading into the age of Aquarius, and we would be the ones that would be able to access this information and digest it. Anyway, let me get over to these tablets. I'm going to be looking up. So if you see my eyes looking up, that's because I'm reading from the tablets on the screen behind the camera. The Epic of Gilgamesh is an epic poem from ancient Mesopotamia. Now, Mesopotamia, if you don't know, that is where? That's a location where Iraq, Iran, and all those Middle Eastern countries are located right now. That's where this epic originated. The literary history of Gilgamesh begins with the Sumerian poems about Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, dating from the 3rd dynasty of Ur. So we know that there's a ziggurat of Ur as well, and that's a giant step pyramid that exists right there in Iraq. As a matter of fact, there's a tunnel leading underneath the ziggurat of Ur all the way to the Giza Plateau in Egypt, which is in Africa. So we have 12 tablets here, okay? 12 amazing tablets of information that predate most texts that exist, especially the biblical text. We're going to start with tablet number 1. He who has seen everything, I will make known. To the lands I will teach about him who experienced all things alike. Anu granted him the totality of knowledge of all. Now, who is Anu? A-N-U. Anu is the god or the king or the head person of the Anunnaki. Anu is the father of Enki and Enlil. Okay, he's the head, he's the leader. All right, so at the time he actually is the king. He's the king of Nibiru. Anu granted him the totality of knowledge of all. So we're talking about Gilgamesh being granted the ability to access a high level of knowledge. He saw the secret, discovered the hidden. He brought information of all time before the flood. This is a pre-diluvial text. We're talking about before the great flood, and you're going to see in this later on, as I get to those later tablets, about Utnapishtim, who's actually the same person as Ziusudra, who really is Noah. And he's got to build this ark. And you're going to see some incredible information about this ark, and the shape of the ark doesn't match the shape of the biblical ark. He saw the secret, discovered the hidden. He brought information of the time before the flood. He went on a distant journey, pushing himself to exhaustion, but then was brought to peace. He carved on a stone stela all of his toils and built the wall of Uruk Haven, the wall of the sacred Eanna temple, the holy sanctuary. Look at this wall, which gleams with copper. Inspect its inner wall, the likes of which no one can equal. Take hold of the threshold stone. It dates from the ancient times. Go close the Eanna temple, the residence of Ishtar. Who is Ishtar? Ishtar is the reason why you celebrate Easter, okay? She was the fertility goddess in Babylonian times. And the actual holiday of Easter, which is celebrated mostly by Christians, is actually the celebration of fertility of Ishtar, the Babylonian Anunnaki goddess. This is why they have the eggs and the bunnies laying the eggs. It's a fertility thing. It has nothing to do with resurrections. So if you've been celebrating Easter all this time, you've been celebrating and you've been worshiping Ishtar. Okay? Now you know. Check this out. 1 league city, 1 league Palm Gardens. So from the city, there's a league to the Palm Gardens. And from the Palm Gardens, there's another league to the lowlands, the open area of Ishtar Temple. 3 leagues, and the open area of Uruk is the wall encloses. We're talking about a super megalithic wall that encloses this entire area. Now, Gilgamesh went through every hardship, supreme over other kings, lordly in appearance. He is the hero. He walks out in front, the leader, and walks in the rear, trusted by his champions. Mighty Net, protector of his people. raging flood wave who destroys even the walls of stone. They're describing Gilgamesh now. So we're talking about the fact that this man, first of all, he's a giant. He's described as a giant. He's incredibly massive. This is a big, big person. You'll see if you Google Gilgamesh or the Epic of Gilgamesh, you'll see that he's holding a lion in one arm across his chest, a full-size grown male lion with the mane and all. And it looks like a kitty cat in his arms almost. This is how big this guy was. But he has knowledge of how to build, how to construct, of advanced technology. He also has the capability of traveling, not around his local area, but around the world. Okay, around the world. He explored the world regions. He didn't explore around the corner. He didn't explore the next village. He explored the world. So every time we keep talking about these ancestors, man, and we think that they don't know anything and that they're dumb and what they say has no value, it's like spitting in their face. Seeking life. That was the reason why he was traveling the world, seeking life. It was he who reached by his own sheer strength, Upanishtim. We're talking about Noah now, the faraway, who restored the sanctuaries or cities that the flood destroyed. 2/3 of him is God. 1/3 of him is human.
Never sue the other driver after a car accident. There's a better way to get paid a way bigger check without having.
2/3 of him is God. 1/3 of him is human. Now, let me say that again. 2/3 of him is God. 1/3 of him is human. He's 2/3 Anunnaki and 1/3 human. If you want to understand the mix of his genetics and why he was so brilliant, why his IQ was so vast, why his strength and his size were incredible, and why he was considered to be a hero. He was mostly Anunnaki DNA. The great goddess Aru designed the model for his body. She prepared his form, beautiful and handsome of men, perfect. We're talking about the fact that they genetically created him. Now, they didn't create him from scratch as if they created a person out of nothing. But right now, today, and I have a friend who's done this with his first child, and he has a second child that they're going to do this as well. They create designer babies. He spent over $250,000 to make a designer baby. I mean, he's rich, he can do whatever he wants. They pick the hair color, they pick the eye color, they pick everything, okay? They also filter out potential genetic diseases and things like that, turn genes off, turn genes on to keep the person supposedly healthy for the most of their life. And that's something you can go do right now today in the world we live in. Well, they were doing this in ancient times. The great goddess Aruru designed the model for his body, prepared his form, beautiful and handsomest of men, perfect. Aruru washed her hands. She pinched off some clay and threw it into the wilderness. Now here's where it gets very interesting. In the wilderness, she created the valiant Enkidu. So now we're getting into some stuff that really is about genetics. Anu said, well, this guy, he's got to have a counterpart. If it's not going to be a woman, let him have a counterpart, because he wants to go on this hero's journey. He wants to keep traveling the world. Give him a companion to go with him. So they literally fashion a person. They create an entity which isn't really a human. It's more like a cyborg, and you'll see why in a second. Okay, so she doesn't give birth to this thing. She creates it somewhere outside the gates of Uruk. And check this out. When Aruru heard this, she created within herself the Zikri of Anu. Aruru washed her hands. She pinched off some clay and threw it into the wilderness. In the wilderness, she created valiant Enkidu, born of silence, endowed with strength by Ninurta. His whole body was shaggy with hair. He had a full head of hair like a woman. His locks billowed in profusion like a shan. So he had dreadlocks. He knew neither peopled nor set a living. He didn't know human beings, and he didn't know anything about civilization or being civilized, all right? But wore a garment like Shamukan. He ate grasses with the gazelles and jostled at the watering hole with animals. As with animals, his thirst was staked by mere water. A notorious trapper came face to face with him opposite of the watering hole. At first, a second and a third day, he came back to face with him the opposite, wearing the watering hole and at the watering hole. On seeing him, the trapper's face went stark with fear, and he, Enkidu, and his animals drew back home. He was rigid with fear. Though stock still, his heart pounded with his face drained of color. He was miserable to the core, and his face looked like one who had made a long journey. The trapper addressed with his father, saying, "Father, a certain fellow has come from the mountains. He is the mightiest in the land. His strength is as mighty as the meteorite of Anu. He continually goes over the mountains. He continuously jostles at the watering place with the animals. He continually plants his feet opposite of the watering place. I was afraid, so I did not go to him. He filled in the pits that I had dug, wrenched out my traps that I had spread, released from my grasp the wild animals. He does not let me make my rounds in the wilderness." The trapper's father spoke to him, saying, "My son, there lives in Uruk a certain Gilgamesh. There is no one stronger than he. He is as strong as the meteorite of Anu. Go set off to Uruk. Tell Gilgamesh of this man and might. He will give you the harlot Shamat. Then take her with you. The woman will overcome the fellow as if he were strong. When the animals are drinking at the water place, have her take her robe off and expose her sex. When he sees her, he will draw near to her, and his animals will grow up in the wilderness, and he will be alien to him." He heeded his father's advice. The trapper went off to Uruk. He made the journey, stood inside of Uruk, and declared to Gilgamesh, "There is a certain fellow who has come from the mountains. He is the mightiest in the land. His strength is mighty as the meteorite of Anu. He continually goes over the mountains. He continuously jostles the watering place with the animals. He continually plants his feet opposite the watering place. I was afraid, so I did not go up to him. He filled in the pits that I had dug. He wrenched out my traps that I had spread, released from my grasp the wild animals. He does not let me make my rounds in the wilderness." Gilgamesh said to the trapper, "Go, trapper, bring the harlot Shamat with you. When the animals are drinking at the watering place, have her take off her robe and expose her sex. When he sees her, he will draw near to her, and the animals who grew up in the wilderness will be alien to him." Obviously, they're taking this female named Shamat, and they're going to have her literally just seduce this guy so that they can get him away from the trap, so this hunter can continue to hunt and bring meat home for the village, which is probably his main source of income. Okay. The trapper went, bringing the harlot Shamat with him. They set off on the journey, making direct way. On the third day, they arrived at the appointed place, and the trapper and the harlot sat down at their posts. A first day and the second, they sat opposite the watering hole. The animals arrived and drank at the watering hole. Then he, Enkidu, offspring of the mountains, who eats grasses with the gazelles, came to drink at the watering hole with the animals. When the wild beast he staked with water, then Shamat saw him, a primitive, a savage fellow from the depths of the wilderness. That is he, Shamat. Release your clenched arms, expose your sex so he can take.
Tonight I got a lot of wins on my dinner plate. Ain't coming down, gotta levitate. I know my next win is the best.
Expose your sex so he can take in your voluptuousness. Do not be restrained. Take his energy. He's basically saying, he's basically pimping this lady to this wild created man, saying they gotta go take one for the team so we can get back to work. Okay? She says, do not be restrained. Take his energy. When he sees you, he will draw near to you. Spread out your robe so he can lie upon you and perform his primitive task of womankind. His animals
who grew up in the wilderness will become alien to him, and his lust will groan over you. Shamat unclutched her bosom, exposed her sex, and he took in her voluptuousness. She was not restrained, but took his energy. She spread out her robe and lay upon her. She performed the primitive task of womankind. His lust groaned over her. For 6 days and 7 nights, Enkidu stayed aroused. Okay, this guy was aroused for 6 days and 7 nights. And had intercourse with the harlot until he was sated with her charms. But when he turned his attention to his animals, the gazelle saw Enkidu and darted off. The wild animals distanced themselves from his body. Enkidu was utterly depleted. His knees wanted to go off with his animals, went rigid. Enkidu was diminished. His running was not as before. His legs were weak. And 6 days, and who knows how many rounds he went. Okay? But then he drew himself up, for his understanding had broadened. Turning around, he sat down at the harlot's feet, gazing into her face, his ears attentive as the harlot spoke. The harlot said to Enkidu, "You are beautiful, Enkidu. You are become like a god. Why do you gallop around in the wilderness with the wild beasts? Come, let me bring you to Uruk Haven, to the holy temple, the residence of Anu and Ishtar, the place of Gilgamesh, who is wise to perfection." Now, what's interesting here, I want to point out, is she's going to take this Enkidu person back to Uruk Haven. All right, so we're talking about going back to the kingdom. At this kingdom, Anu himself is living amongst people. One of these quote unquote gods of the tablets, and I do mean lowercase g gods, they masqueraded as gods, and his goddess Ishtar are actually living in a temple amongst regular people. So these people engaged mankind in ancient times in a way where we worshiped them, we honored them, we brought them our offerings. We thought they were real gods. They were just masquerading as gods. They weren't gods. They weren't the creator of the universe, and they themselves knew this. When is the perfect time to approach a species on a planet? When they're in their developmental stages and they're very low. If you want to violate any universal laws of engagement, which I believe that these Anunnaki beings did, if you want to violate, universal laws of engagement, you want to take advantage of a situation due to ignorance of the being or the species on a planet, you luck out if you arrive when they're in the Stone Ages. You really luck out, because then you can mold them however you want. You can get them to become your slaves without them thinking they're slaves, because they'll believe you're a god. And that's exactly what happened. She says, the residence of Anu and Ishtar, the place of Gilgamesh, who is wise to perfection, but who struts his power over the people like a wild bull. What she kept saying found favor with him. Becoming aware of himself, he sought a friend. So this Enkidu now realizes knowledge of self. He didn't see himself as an animal anymore. He's beginning to see himself as a sentient being. And so now he's going to head off to this kingdom with this harlot. Enkidu spoke to the harlot. "Come, Shamat, take me away with you to the sacred holy temple, the residence of Anu and Ishtar, the place of Gilgamesh, who is wise to perfection, but who struts his power over the people like a wild bull. I will challenge him. Let me shout out in Uruk, I am the mighty one. Lead me in, and I will change the order of things. He whose strength is mightiest is the one born in the wilderness." So now he sees a challenge here. Shamat says to Enkidu, "Come, let us go, so he may see your face. I will lead you to Gilgamesh. I know where he will be.
Look out, look about, Enkidu inside Uruk Haven, where the people show off in skirted finery, where every day is a day for some festival, where the lyre and the drum play continually, where harlots stand about pretty, excluding voluptuousness, full of laughter, and on the couch of the night.
Looking to get up to $800? Then BioLife is looking for you. Because at BioLife, you can get up to $800 in just 4 weeks. Donating at BioLife's a great way to help patients with rare and chronic.
And on the couch of the night of the sheets are spread. Enkidu, you who do not know how to live, I will show you Gilgamesh, a man of extreme feelings. Look at him, gaze in his face. He is a handsome youth with freshness. His entire body exudes voluptuousness. He is mightier and more strength than you, without sleeping a day or night. He's saying that Gilgamesh is so huge and powerful that this guy doesn't even need to go to sleep, and he still has the most power, or is the strongest being that they know of in that city, in that kingdom. Enkidu, it is your wrong thoughts you must change. It is Gilgamesh whom Shamat loves. And Anu, Enlil, and La have enlarged his mind, even before you came from the mountain. So what she's saying is, Gilgamesh's mind, his mind had been expanded. His knowledge and wisdom had been expanded. He had taken in so much knowledge from who? Anu, his son Enlil, who was also known as Yahweh in the Bible, and La. Okay, we're talking about 3 people that have extremely high knowledge in the Sumerian tablets, have taken Gilgamesh in as an adept initiate and given him a supreme amount of knowledge, making him one of the wisest men on the planet. So she says, Gilgamesh got up and revealed the dream, saying to his mother, "Mother, I had a dream last night. Stars of the sky appeared, and some kind of meteorite of Anu fell next to me. I tried to lift it, but it was too mighty for me. I tried to turn it over, but it could not budge. The land of Uruk was standing around it. The whole land had assembled about it. The populace was thronging around it. The men clustered about it and kissed its feet as if it were a little baby. I loved it and embraced it as a wife. I laid down at your feet, and you made it complete with me." The mother of Gilgamesh, the wise, all-knowing, said to her lord, Riamat Ninsun, the wise, all-knowing, said to Gilgamesh, "As for the stars of the sky that appeared, and the meteorite of Anu which fell next to you, you tried to lift it, but it was too mighty for you. You tried to turn it over, but it was unable to budge. You laid it down at my feet, and I made it complete with you. And you loved and embraced it as a wife. There will come to you a mighty man, a comrade who saves his friend." So there's a prophecy coming out of this dream, and his mother is literally discerning his dream and giving him this prophecy, what's to happen and why he had this dream. To come to him is going to be a mighty man who's going to become a comrade and saves his life. He is the mightiest in the land. He is the strongest. His strength is mighty as the meteorite of Anu. You loved him and embraced him as a wife. And it is he who will repeatedly save you. Your dream is good and portuous. A second time, Gilgamesh said to his mother, "Mother, I have had another dream. At the gate of my martial chamber, there lay an axe, and people had collected about it. The land of Uruk was standing around it. The whole land assembled about it. The populace was thronging around it. I laid it down at your feet. I loved it and embraced it as a wife, and you made it complete with me." The mother of Gilgamesh, the wise, all-knowing, said to her son, Riamat Ninsun, the wise, all-knowing, said to Gilgamesh, "The axe that you saw is a man, that you love him and embrace as a wife, but that I have been complete with you. There will come to you a mighty man, a comrade who saves his friend. He is the mightiest in the land. He is the strongest. He is as mighty as the meteorite of Anu. Gilgamesh spoke to his mother, saying, by the command of Enlil, the great counselor, so may it to pass. Okay? So now he's saying is, wow, Mom, these two dreams, you're telling me what this is leading to. Someone that's coming that I'm gonna be a really close friend with, that's gonna save my life, and is a super mighty person, maybe even potentially mightier than me. And so this is the prophecy coming from Rimat Ninsun, his mother. So it goes on saying, by the command of Enlil, great counselor, so it too may pass. May I have a friend and advisor. A friend and advisor may I have. You have interpreted for me the dreams about him. Another harlot recounted the dreams of Gilgamesh to Enkidu. The two of them made love. So the harlot is still messing around with Enkidu. I mean, Enkidu is getting a lot of, you know what? I guess after living with the animals all that time, you know, his time came. Time came due. We're talking about a great epic here that was written almost 5,000 years ago, 4,700 roughly years ago, right? We're talking about Gilgamesh, a mighty man, all right? A mighty man that was fashioned, that was created, not created from scratch as if somebody had magic, but he was a genetically created person using designer technology, just like we have designer babies right now.
Checkers and Rally's new Pretzel Pupster $5 combo does date night right. Over a quarter pound of beef and beer cheese on a pretzel bun with our famous seasoned fries and a drink, all for just $5. Only at Checkers and Rally's.
We know
each other
so well.
We can basically
read each other's minds.
For example,
My favorite movie
on Angel is
Bonhoeffer.
Sketch.
That's not what you said last night.
Anyways, you can watch stories that amplify light on Angel for only
$240
$12.
nickels.
Wait, why would you price it out in nickels?
Oh, well, who doesn't have 240 nickels lying around just waiting to get rid of?
We're
Normal.
so normal.
Download the Angel app on your TV or go to angel.com to watch hundreds of titles for as little as
240 nickels.
$12.
What are we watching tonight? Angel.